The Marley arc of Attack on Titan has recently concluded in the Season 4 anime adaptation, and so I have decided to make a video about a certain aspect of this arc that I consider to be absolutely fantastic. This video will contain spoilers up until the end of the Marley arc, but no further, so if you're an anime only watcher, you are safe from manga only content, as that will not be spoiled for you in this video. If you have not read or watched the Marley arc, this video is clearly not for you, and you should go read it right now. For quite a while now, I have been struggling to decide what my favourite arc in Attack on Titan is. We have 3 arcs in the series that stand at a very similar level of quality in my personal opinion. Return to Shiganshina, an arc that reaches absurd levels of hype that are almost peerless among what I have experienced in manga. It contains a series revolutionizing backstory that creates a drastic shift in the direction of the narrative, and it's also packed with fantastic character work for many members of the cast, by giving Erwin a fantastic resolution to his arc, Levi a lot of nuance to his personality and decision making, and others like Armin, Eren, Grisha and so forth some substantial focus and development. We have the War for Paradise arc, which contains various different character perspectives and point of views without ever feeling poorly placed or convoluted. In fact, I pride the arc for being perfectly fluid and slowly boiling into the perfect culmination that is its breathtaking and cathartic climax, which I will obviously not speak on because of the obvious spoilers. Manga readers know exactly what I'm talking about. And then we have the Marley arc, which is exactly what I'm going to be talking about today in this video. As I said before, in my eyes all 3 of these arcs stand at a very similar level of quality, and I've been struggling to choose a favourite for a while now. Currently I'm leaning towards the Return to Shiganshina arc, which I love for its impressive build-up and its unique ability to single-handedly reshape everything about AOT as a story, from its themes to its narrative framework, in just a single reveal with the basement. It's also the first arc I binged from start to finish in the manga, so the nostalgic value for me personally is at its strongest with this specific arc, and when you factor in the wonderful reread value and just how much things get better with later content, it definitely stands out as one of the most defining stretches in the entire story. But enough about that. As you can see from the title of this video, we are here to talk about the Marley arc. Not the arc as a whole, as that would be a much longer and ambitious project, but one specific aspect of this arc that makes it very different to anything else in the entire series. The Marley arc is very unconventional in terms of its structure and cast, and for that reason I would comfortably call this the boldest arc in the entire series. In order for you to truly appreciate just how brave Isayama was to deliver such an experimental and unorthodox narrative, we need to take a look at the end of Return to Shiganshina and explore how this marks a severe turning point for Attack on Titan as we knew it. For practically the entire series, the main objective of our protagonists and the Survey Corps is to fight for humanity. And something that played a central role to this objective is reaching the basement of Eren's family home. Eren's father Grisha entrusted him with the key to the basement, where revelations that should uncover the mystery of the Titans reside. Upon finally reaching the basement, the remaining members of the Survey Corps are bombarded with bombshells about the truth of Attack on Titan's world, like where the Titans originated from, how the walls were constructed, and so many other things that are contained in the numerous diaries that Grisha had left within this basement. Humanity has not perished. In one simple line, Isayama completely altered the scope of the series, both from a plot sense and a thematic sense. What we had believed to be a battle to exterminate Titans and free humanity from their merciless, barbaric tyranny was in fact a much larger conflict involving the rest of humanity in a much larger world than the one our main cast knew of. After delivering all of these groundbreaking revelations that literally reshaped the narrative of the series as we knew it, Isayama delivers this moment on the beach, the final scene of the arc. Eren expresses exactly what we as the audience have been concerned about. We have always believed that once every titan on the island was dealt with, we could reach the other side of the ocean and find the freedom that our characters have sought after so intensely. That is what we were made to believe by Isayama, and that's also what the characters themselves believed. But as it turns out, the other side of the ocean is the furthest thing from freedom for our main characters. There are more enemies, who are possibly even more threatening than the titans we've been fighting against this entire time. Eren delivers a chilling question to wrap up this scene, and in turn the entire arc, when he asks, if we kill everybody on the other side of the ocean, does that mean we'll be free? This is where the arc ends off, a momentous turning point for the series that leaves us with a lot of questions. The Grisha flashback leaves us with a lot of questions too, despite how many answers it gives us. Questions surrounding the Eldians living within Marley, the warriors, people like Rainer, Bertolt, Annie. What is life like on the other side of the ocean? What is going to happen next in this story? Is it time for us to cross the ocean and try come to some sort of political agreement? Or will it be an all-out war against the hidden oppressors who have tormented the people of Paradis from the shadows, using the flesh-eating titans as weapons of mass destruction? All of these questions are integral to the Marley arc, and what makes this arc so bold is the manner in which Isayama dives into these different concerns and provides the necessary answers to them. The Marley arc contains some of the most efficient storytelling I've seen. In the span of just 16 monthly chapters, it manages to create a whole new cast of characters, contextualize various traits of pre-existing characters, provide incredible amounts of detailed world building, answer all of these questions that were established by previous arcs, whilst also delivering a suspenseful narrative that slowly boils into the iconic climax full of bloodshed and terror at the hands of none other than Eren Yeager, who plays an almost antagonistic role in this story arc. The reason I call Marley the boldest arc in Attack on Titan is because we spend multiple chapters away from any of the main characters, and that in of itself is an incredibly gutsy move from Isayama, considering how intense and unpredictable he left things off at the end of the Return to Shiganshina arc. But when you also factor in the fact that a 4-year time skip has just taken place, it completely amplifies that boldness and puts into perspective just how daring Isayama was to deliver this piece of the story. Just imagine how monthly readers of the series must have felt at the time, wanting to see the characters they love, but instead slowly coming to fall in love and empathize with these new characters who will inevitably serve as enemies to the main cast. A gamble like this from an author is very tricky to pull off, but I can comfortably say that I adore Isayama for making this decision and pulling it off with finesse and everlasting impact. Fans of Attack on Titan who have been following this series for years now and are active in online communities can definitely attest to all the unwarranted backlash Isayama got for these first few chapters of the Marley arc. It's somewhat understandable, considering where Return to Shiganshina left off and where Marley kicked off, but it's also incredible to see just how many of those very people who initially disliked the start of the Marley arc for its boldness now love it when looking at it in retrospect. Isayama chose to do something out of the ordinary, and for those who had faith in his decision making, he delivered with a constant flood of intense thrills, unexpected twists and turns, and ridiculous artwork to complement the fantastic narrative which he had constructed. This shift in point of view and perspective was absolutely necessary for Attack on Titan because the Marley arc from a thematic standpoint is focused on showing the perspective of the opposition, ultimately making the world of Attack on Titan a lot more grey and a lot more nuanced. A recurring motif within Attack on Titan is that the world is cruel, not just the people within it but the very world itself. There is no good side or bad side. Instead, we have a world full of conflicting ambitions, desires, ideologies, beliefs, and circumstances. Who can truly say which is right and which is wrong? There is no right or wrong. There is no black or white. The world is grey. The Marley arc flourishes in this concept by practically forcing us to fall in love and empathize with these very human characters from Marley that starkly resemble our main cast in terms of personality and characteristics. By doing this, Isayama further reinforces that fundamental aspect of this story's themes, that the world itself is evil, and everybody within it is a victim of its atrocities. The characters we are following, like Reiner, Zeke, Gabby, Falco, Porco and the rest, are all Eldians that live under consistent oppression from the Marleyans amongst them. They have been brainwashed and conditioned into believing that it is their responsibility, due to their heritage, that they must suffer for their ancestors' sins. This concept is largely explored through Gabby, who is easily the most polarizing character in this entire series. She's enthusiastic, zealous, even charming and very lovable at first, but we as the audience have a natural bias against her given her desire to kill our beloved main cast. After killing Sasha, we almost feel as if we must hate her for her actions, but there's an incredible message to be taken from her character. Gabby is a victim of her circumstance. She is a product of the cruel world that Attack on Titan takes place in. She's tired of her and her family being oppressed by everybody because of her bloodline, and all the brainwashing about the Eldian people has forced her to adopt this mindset that she must carry the fate that she has been dealt and prove herself as a good Eldian in order to free all the Eldians that are discriminated against and live within Marley. She points her hatred towards the Island Devils, the bad Eldians, and through her warped, ignorant and misguided ideologies, her character perfectly encapsulates the motif I mentioned earlier. The world is very cruel, and the cycles of hatred in this cruel world affect anybody and everybody. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to Gabby, and I'm definitely planning to make a video in defense of her character at some point, so if you are interested in seeing that, please let me know in the comment section below, as that will really help motivate me in getting that video out. Eren's role in this arc heavily relates to the entire purpose of this video, the boldness of Marley as an arc. It's how he is seamlessly incorporated as a side character that slowly shapes into the most major player that I find most impressive. The funniest thing about Eren in this arc is that for his first few appearances, people weren't 100% certain whether it was actually him or not. The hobo character design, coupled with the fact that there has been a time skip and that he's missing a limb, made it understandably difficult to properly determine whether this was actually him, and the fact that he was so cordial when communicating with the Marleyan people took many people by surprise given his stark change in personality. A lot of jokes were circulating about how Eren isn't even the main character of Attack on Titan anymore. Of course this isn't true, but it just goes to show just how much focus is given to this new set of characters, the warrior candidates as well as the previously prominent Reiner and Zeke. Up until this section of the story, the majority of time we have spent with Attack on Titan was through the eyes of Eren Yeager, our main character, our main point of view. We saw the world through his eyes and we were just as clueless about this world as he was. We gained the answers we very much desired alongside him, and found ourselves asking the same questions he did. So by choosing to portray Eren as this character shrouded in complete ambiguity, whose motives we have no true understanding of, Isayama delivers some of the most brilliant, suspenseful, and unpredictable storytelling within the series. There is a lot more to unpack within this arc relating to the title of this video. The Marley arc is one of the boldest pieces of storytelling I have experienced for a plethora of reasons, but the last note I want to touch upon is the boldness of this arc's themes. You will often see a lot of ignorant Attack on Titan discourse, and it's usually because of this Polygon article that gained a lot of undeserved attention a couple of years ago. I'm not going to link this article or even share the title of it because it is a steaming pile of garbage, and reading it is a form of torture that nobody should have to go through. Nonetheless, the overall gist of this article is that it is spreading a false narrative, one in which Attack on Titan is pro-war, pro-imperialism, pro-fascism, and anti-Semitic propaganda. How one could come to this conclusion is something I will never be able to fully comprehend, as it would require you to ignore virtually half of the entire manga, which tells me the person who wrote this article had no idea what the hell he was talking about. And I'm sorry if I come across offensive in any way, but this has to be one of the most disrespectful things I've seen towards an author in the manga industry. It is an absolute disservice to the intricacy and nuance of Hajime Isayama's writing when it comes to these incredibly sensitive themes, and more important than that, it's just a complete disservice to the respect in which he explores them. And that is what brings us to my final point on the boldness of Attack on Titan's Marley arc. This arc makes it incredibly clear that Attack on Titan is in no way, shape or form a celebration of warfare, but rather it is a complete criticism of it. In chapter 97 we get two scenes that clearly depict war as a horrible thing. Reiner's suicide attempt and Eren's monologue about the brutal effects of warfare. Reiner is reminiscing and reflecting on his painful past and the days he spent in Paradise. He is suffering from PTSD and immense guilt for the things he has done and the countless lives he has ruined. He is watching Gabby and Falco training and realizing that one day he is going to have to return to Paradise and relive that cruel cycle of war, bloodshed and killing. Reiner cannot handle that thought and it drives him to his breaking point, pushing him to put a loaded rifle in his mouth and attempt to take his own life. I've made an extensive analysis on Reiner's character discussing this scene, and the link to that video will be in the description if you are interested. This suicide attempt displays the harsh effects that warfare can have on a human, and it clearly paints war as a terrible thing. If this sequence wasn't enough for you to see that Attack on Titan is clearly a critique of war, then this monologue from Eren later in the very same chapter should definitely do the job. Ruined minds and bodies, people with no freedom left, people who have even lost themselves. Who would want to go to war if they knew they were going to end up like this? These are words directly from Eren, the main character of the series, and it clearly shows you that Isayama is criticizing war, and that Attack on Titan is an anti-war work. This is a very necessary discussion to be had when talking about just how bold the Marley arc is, and obviously the boldness of this entire manga as a whole. An author exploring sensitive and taboo topics is a very brave task. These themes are very controversial and strongly relate to real-world issues, and because of this they are always going to be misinterpreted by somebody and inadvertently skewed into false narratives. The way Isayama explores these very daring themes within the Marley arc is very respectful, yet still very effective in serving its role as a critique. I hope I've done a good job in explaining why I think the Marley arc is some of the boldest storytelling out there. If you have any thoughts to share regarding this video, please feel free to share them in the comment section down below. I do love some criticisms, as long as you go about them respectfully, just as Hajime Isayama does in his manga. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day or night, wherever you may be. Peace.